Hey Patrick and the Country versus Metal family. My name is Brandon McDermott with the Brandon McDermott Band, and I'm very excited to be here. Uh, if you'd like to learn any more about our band or our music, you could head over to brandonmcdermottband.com, and that'll have links to all our social media, where you can hear our music, or if you want to buy a T-shirt or an album, uh, we got it all over there. So just head on over to brandonmcdermottband.com. We'd love to meet you and say howdy.
Sounds good. So, how did you get started with music? I saw in an interview you did. You went to Texas A&M.
I did, yeah, Texas A&M, and that's I think the very first concert I ever went to. I don't know if it's the first one. I went to see Shake Russell and Daniel Cooper, kind of some Texas guys that are a little more folky, but my parents were big fans of theirs, and I went and I loved it. And I was still kind of young, so I didn't really like, get into playing music then, but I was like, I love music. I love live music. It's really cool. And then I remember my cousin took me to a Bush concert. It was like Bush, No Doubt, and Goo Goo Dolls. And I was like, playing guitar is awesome. And so I went and bought a guitar and tried to learn. But, I think I was like 12 or 13. I didn't really stick with it. And it wasn't until I went to A&M and kind of heard Robert Earl Keen, Pat Green, some of these guys that were just starting. Well, Robert Earl Keen's been around forever, but Pat Green was kind of getting going when I was in college and stuff like that. And I just fell in love with the Texas country sound, and I knew that was the kind of music that really spoke to me. So I went and got a guitar and just started learning and kind of taught myself and realized I could kind of write some songs, played them for some friends, and then I just kind of started by myself. And actually, it's pretty funny. There's a bar in College Station. It's really famous called the Dixie Chicken. And I was dating this girl at the time, and I said, hey, Kevin Fowler is playing at the Dixie Chicken. He was just starting out. Kevin Fowler's huge in Texas now, obviously, but he was playing inside of the Dixie Chicken, which never happens. And I was like, do you want to go? And she's like, yeah. So we walked across the street, and we got in there, and Kevin was like, hey, I need someone to sell merch for me if anybody wants to volunteer. And she was like, yeah, I'll volunteer. And I was like, oh, okay, that's great. I'll just sit here by myself in this bar for an hour and a half. That's cool. Go sell merch. And then, so I watched the show and it was real fun. And afterwards I was like, well, that was a good time. And she's like, yeah, selling merch was really fun. I was like, well, I guess we ought to head back. She goes, I'm going to hang out with Kevin. And I was like, oh, okay. So after a long, lonely walk by myself back to my dorm, I was like, I'm going to really have to start learning how to play guitar because I see how this goes.
Yeah.
So I kind of started, I just started learning some chords and plunking around and doing some stuff, and just eventually started writing some songs, playing them. I didn't ever have aspirations to have a band. I just kind of wanted to do open mic nights and be the guy that plays around with guitar at parties and stuff. But the more you do that, the more you want more, and then you play on a stage and you love that feeling and you want more. And so then I got a guitar player, and I never wanted to be the Brandon McDermott Band necessarily. I liked band names better, but it was just me. And my first show, I got together. One of my good buddies had a band, and we played at this really popular place down here called the Old Quarter Acoustic Cafe that the bass player for Towns Van Zandt owned and operated and everything. And he's like, if you can get together an hour, you can open up for me. And so I did that. And just to be funny, I made a bunch of T-shirts that said Brandon McDermott Band Summer World Tour, and it was one open mic night and that show. And I printed them out and gave them to everybody in the crowd, and it was funny. It went over, and finally I got a guitar player, and I said, we can change the band. I just did that as a joke. And he's like, I don't care what the band's called. I was like, okay. Then we got a bass player, and I was like, we could change the band name, and he's like, I don't care what the band's called. And then I got a drummer, and it was the same thing, and then we put out our first record, and then after that, it's like, well, we can't change it now, so that's how we're the Brandon McDermott Band, basically because of a joke on a T-shirt.
Now, did you have a name picked out for the band, or
no? I had about 200 names that every time I just think of something, I'd put it in my phone or write it down or whatever, and just we went through them, couldn't decide. No one really cared enough to change it, so we just stuck with it. And now we can't change it, but it works out for Randy Roger Band and countless other awesome guys.
Yeah. And if you ever do want to change it, like Mike and the Moon Pies, they just changed their name after.
I know, exactly.
What a big decision.
I can't imagine. And they have the following and the rabid following, that the fans are going to know they did that, make the effort to change it over. We're still really trying to build our brand and our name and our band, and if we changed, I feel like we'd lose a lot of momentum that we already have going.
Yeah, definitely. It's your trademark.
Right.
It
Exactly.
really, yeah. And that also, that other interview, I was Kevin Fowler had a great quote. Keep the slow songs for the records and the fun songs for the shows.
Yeah, he said that, and we've actually been fortunate enough to open up for him 2 or 3 times now, and he's a super cool guy. I told him that story about being at the Dixie Chicken, and he laughed, and it's funny, and I was with my wife, and I was like, my wife cannot sell merch for you tonight, by the way. So he thought that was pretty funny.
Yeah, I have a story like that too, where a girl's like, "Oh, this is my favorite band," and I was like, "Hey, want to meet the lead singer?" And
Right.
yeah, she gone. And my thing wasn't, I already knew how to play guitar. I'm like, well, I guess I'll never learn how to sing because I can't sing, so that's out.
Right. I know, it's funny. That's one of my favorite things about playing music is getting to meet. We've been very fortunate, and we're not headlining festivals or anything, but we get to play on some festivals and stuff with all the guys that made me want to start playing music in the first place, and it's just super cool to be on the bill with them and see our name next to theirs and get to meet them and stuff. And I think that's one of the coolest things about playing music, honestly.
Yeah, I love it. Like everybody I've met in the whole Texas country, Red Dirt, everyone's been so nice.
Right.
Everyone's really supportive of each other, and it's like some people are signed, some people are independent, and a lot of times, like in some sorts of situations, like that doesn't work
Right.
in the world, and it's really cool to see like a signed group being able to bring on independent artists,
Right.
because a lot of times,
I think the Texas scene is kind of unique in that most of even the big players started out as a solo acoustic act, usually at bars, and they made their way up and they got a band and put it together and just grew organically. I think some of your Nashville stuff, nothing against those guys that are doing what they do, but sometimes they find a guy, give him the songs, and put him in the studio, and it's not as, you don't grow it as organically. It may get bigger and huger and way more profitable, but I feel like that kind of gets out the camaraderie because not everybody's like vying for this group of songs that maybe somebody will give them, and maybe they want an agent they have the right look and they want to get on the stage. And whereas I feel like in Texas, at least, everybody came from the bottom together. There's still different levels, obviously, but I think basically if you took it all away, all the glitz, all the glory, you'd still have a group of dudes with acoustic guitars having a good time in bars and people coming to see them.
yeah. Now, are you like an analog guy with recording and everything?
No, we're actually going back into the studio next week to record our third. Well, this is going to be an EP, which I always tell everyone, EP is short for we don't have money to record a full length album, but we're going to do an EP, and we've been recording with this group up in Sugarland, the studio up there, which is up in Houston. I'm down in Galveston, Texas, but about an hour and a half away. So they do. I don't really know what the magic is behind the console, but it's pretty digital.
Okay.
I mean, all our band plays all the music and everything, but how they mix it and master it is all magic to me.
Yeah. Are you good in the studio?
I think so. If I'm being honest, I don't really enjoy the studio. It's just monotonous. You play the same song over and over and over and over and over and over and over. And, it just kind of, if you play something over and over, you kind of forget that you even know it after, an hour or two. And I like recording with my band. I think that's more fun than, with studio musicians or something like that. I know a lot of guys do it that way too, and I'm sure that's fun. But my band and I are really close, and we're a true band. It's not just me and then some guys that play with me. We're actually a band despite what the name of our band is. But so I enjoyed that part of being in the studio with those guys. It's really fun. The process is tedious, and I'm kind of a self-critic, so I don't think anything I'm actually doing in there sounds good to me because I actually have to listen to it. Where live, the second you play it, it's gone instantaneously. And if you messed up, see you next show, But in the studio, you really get time to. They send you a copy, and they're like, "What do you think?" And you listen to it 1,000 times, and you're like, I don't know. I liked it once, now I hate it. Now I like it, now I hate it. And you don't know what to tell them to change because there's infinite possibilities. So it's a little overwhelming for me. And our producer told us, he's like, eventually you just got to let it go and be a song, and it's going to
Yeah.
be fine. Not everyone's going to be as critical as you are when they hear it.
Yeah, that's like when I tell people they record a song, they listen to it, and they're like, ugh. And I'm like, think of all the older songs, like old Metallica. They're not good recordings, not
Right.
not compared to today. And I'm like, the talent and the song will, especially like I'm older. I don't know how old you are. Like it, this itchy scratchiness of records and radio, and
Right.
you'd have to sit there with like play record and you listen back to it, and it's terrible. But like if the song has a good hook and a good sound, a true music lover
Sure.
will appreciate it.
Right. I think also it's funny in like rock music, the vocals sit in with the band, and it's the music and the vocals are all together, and especially right now in Texas country, everything that the producers are doing, they want the vocals really out front, which is fine. It sounds good, but that's probably my what I'm hardest on myself about. So it's like listening to yourself on an answer machine. It takes a while to get used to hearing yourself over and over, and I'm comfortable with it now, but there were a lot of times where I didn't even like sound check because the band's not playing necessarily all the time during sound check. So it's just like, they're like, okay, let me hear the vocals. And you're like, I don't want anyone to hear the vocals. And so, it took a while to get over that. And being in the studio kind of brings that feeling back for me, even though not so much now. We've done it enough now that I don't worry about it. But it's just to answer your question, I guess studio isn't my favorite thing. I like playing live a whole lot better.
Yeah, like you said, it costs money, and it at times cannot be fun. But I also hear that you guys put on one hell of a live show.
We do pride ourselves on our live show. We just have fun playing, so it's not even so much putting on a show. It's just having fun and doing what we do. We still are at the level where we're, booking is the hardest stuff for us. It's always hard to get into a new venue at our level, at least. We have a 100% rebooking stat that we're really proud of. Anytime someone gives a chance, they always have us back. Festivals, bars, clubs, anything. So we're really proud of that. But, just like any other band that doesn't have a booking manager and is doing everything bootstrapped on their own, that could be a little daunting. It's we actually talked about naming our next album Ghosted, just because of the millions of emails we send out, booking emails, and you hear nothing back. The percentages, your kill rate's pretty little, but when you get them, that's great.
Yeah. So how does the word get out? Like, what do you find like that works more? Just word of mouth, or?
Yeah, I think word of mouth, and then people seeing our show and they say, hey, my friend books at this bar, or I own this bar, or I own this brewery, or anything really. I feel like that's what works best for us. We send our press kit out a bunch too. It's helped that our last record was pretty well received on Spotify. It got picked up by their, I think it's Texas Music Now. It's their biggest Texas country playlist. So we got a lot of exposure out of that, and that helped. Social media, I guess, helps. But I think it's mostly word of mouth. We know a lot of people, a lot of good people that are friends. They're, I guess they're fans, if you want to call them that too. But they've become more of our friends than anything else. So we meet them and they tell other people about us, and that's how we kind of get into places. Being on the coast, I had our radio promoter. She just retired, but her name was Debbie Green, and she told us that the way you grow your band is you get your center where you're based out of, and you do a 60-mile radius, and you hit every single venue in there. But being in Galveston, 60 of our miles on that radius are the Gulf of Mexico, so there's nothing out there but oil rigs. So we got to do a 120-mile direction going that way. So our approach has been a little bit different. So it's required a little bit of a little bit more networking and things like that.
Now, do you primarily play just weekends, or?
Yeah,
guys?
we're mostly weekend bands. I mean, we play during the week some, but we're mostly just on the weekends. We play as much as we can, and we play quite a bit, but right now we're just weekends.
Do you have any like big tours coming up or anything? Or are you just gonna try to keep it low key and not get burned out?
No, we haven't had any really far away tours. We've played all over Texas, from here to Amarillo to we even played a show in Mexico one time. but we haven't toured too far outside of Texas or anything like that. So, we do kind of weekend tours and things like that, but we haven't had any month-long wheels up on the bus kind of tours.
Yeah, it's amazing that there can be so many big bands and they never left like Texas because it's so big.
Yeah,
it still blows my mind.
We'll be gone for 2 or 3 days at a time and never leave Texas. And be hundreds and hundreds of miles. The shows will be hundreds and hundreds of miles apart. So it's a big old state.
Yeah, like especially like, oh, the show's 12 hours away.
Right.
What state is it in? Texas.
Exactly. Yeah, that's definitely how it was when we played at Amarillo. It was just a 12-hour daunting drive from here to there.
That's nuts.
Yeah.
It's fun, though. Yeah. The road can be fun.
Right.
But like, I just see like, since Texas is so big and like a couple people, they go live on TikTok while they're driving around and it's like, there's not a lot to do on like Texas roads. Like up here, like everything's kind of condensed. There's rest stops everywhere. And like, I've only seen stuff in the movies where it's, last stop for 150 miles. And it's
man, those signs are no service stations for 200 miles. So you better get your gas while you're in that little town. But for me, that's the part I like. I don't like being in the city driving. It's not relaxing or anything. The second we get out on the highway and you see the pastures and right now the bluebonnets are blooming and everything. That's what's Texas for me. Not being around Houston and Dallas and all the big cities.
Yeah, it's funny. Like when I was getting picked up from the airport, he's like, I need to know what gate you're leaving at. I need to know where to pick you up. And I'm like, all right. Then come to find out, he picked me up. We're like driving for like 25 minutes. We're still at the airport.
Yeah,
I was like, because like I showed up at I was late getting to the airport, and like Philly is like a baby station compared to Dallas Fort Worth. I was like, that blew my mind when we're driving all around, and he's like, "Yep, it's still the airport," and I was like, "Okay."
Yeah.
He's like, "If you didn't tell me what gate, it could have been an extra 40 minutes." I was like, it blew my mind, and
you can't guess, and if you miss the gate, you got to leave and go all the way around, and it's like driving around a city.
Yeah, that was my first everything's bigger in Texas kind of moment.
Yeah.
But what was funny is when we went to like the first kind of like bar and I was expecting like big glasses.
Right.
I'm like, where's the Texas mugs? Come on. But it was funny is like people asked, they're like, oh, what was like the most Texas thing you've seen? And I'm like, I don't really see any, up north you think like, I don't know, like cowboys, like but like it looked like, especially Dallas, it was just like another American city. And
I think Dallas right now is it's the city with the most people moving to it in the whole country. And so, it kind of waters down some Texasness of it if it's just getting packed with other people. And so you kind of got to head out to the rural areas to get that Texas scene you're looking for sure. Yeah,
it's like at the Fort Worth, I guess the stockyards, they had the Texas Longhorns walking around, but they have them down by where I used to live because people are like, "Oh, you ever seen them?" I'm like, "Yeah."
Yeah, right.
Exactly. Like, I don't know what they do with them, but I've seen them. It's like,
yeah, I've been to Delaware once before. When I was growing up here in Galveston, I actually worked for the Galveston Beach Patrol, like a lifeguard on the beach, and I used to do competitions and stuff, swimming and running and paddleboarding and things like that. And we had a couple up in Delaware, and I remember one time, it was the last night we were there, and we drank a whole bunch, and I was super hungover, and we were driving back to Galveston, and we took a ferry from, or maybe we were in New Jersey, I guess. We took a ferry from New Jersey to Delaware, or Delaware to New Jersey, or something like that. And there's a ferry here in Galveston that goes from one island over to this peninsula, and it takes like 15 minutes, and it's across the bay, and it's nice. And I was like, oh, ferry ride, that's cool. But it was across like the open ocean, basically, and it's just, and it was 3.5 hours long, and it was horrible. I was so hungover. I was sitting on the front to try to get some breeze, but I was getting seasick, so I went to the back, but the exhaust was coming out, and eventually I was like, I'm going to throw up. And I was on the third floor thing, and I threw up all down the side, and I didn't realize it there was a restaurant on this ferry underneath there, and I just threw up down the windows of the whole thing where everybody's down there eating, and half of my friends were down there, and they're like, "Oh, we were eating at this table, and this vomit just comes pouring down the glass." I was like, "That was me."
That's funny. It was probably the Cape May ferry.
Yeah, we were in Cape May. That's right.
Yeah, they do have a big lifeguard competition.
Mm-hmm.
That's funny because my parents have lived there for years. I've lived there for a while too. I've taken that ferry. I took it. God, I was going to senior week, and my dad had called my girlfriend, said something to her. This is like kind of like back before cell phones. I got off the ferry and all the cars left,
Right.
and I was like, I'm like, where's the bus? But yeah, that thing, like when a storm comes in, that ferry, it is a wild ride.
I can't imagine it. I never want to go on that thing again. I grew up on boats and surfing and being a lifeguard on the beach. I have no problem with water, but sometimes my wife and I went to on this whale watching tour in California one time, and it was the last boat they let go out for the day because the seas were so big, and I spent 3 hours throwing up over the back of the boat, just like, I don't even care about these whales, man. What are we doing out here?
It's,
I don't like being on a boat that I can't decide to drive back to shore when I want to.
yeah, it's the last time I was on like a fishing boat. I remember being fine, but then I got off of it and I was like, I got the land sickness. I still
Yeah,
felt
right.
like I don't know. I remember
Especially
we
when
were,
you're in the shower and you lay your head back, put your shampoo, wash your shampoo off. You're like, whoa.
yeah, we were at the casino and I was like hanging off the craps table, like, uh-oh. And the guy's like, "Hey, you all right?" I'm like, "Dude, I got sea legs right now."
Right.
Because yeah, that water out there can get pretty intense.
Yeah.
But with your live shows, do you have like a most like memorable one where if you could replicate this a show that you've done every night, do you have like a one that stands out?
Probably, I think so. We've had some pretty fun ones, but we opened up for Mickey and the Motor Cars, which is probably one of my favorite Texas bands. I love them a lot. And we were at the Firehouse Saloon in Houston, and it was packed. They brought a ton of people, and we brought a ton of people. In fact, Mickey even told me, he's like, "Man, he's like, y'all brought as many people as we did. We're gonna have to play together more often." And I thought that was like the coolest thing ever. And we just, we played our show, and sometimes as the opener, people were a little more, they don't stand right on the front of the stage while you're playing, they wait for the headliner. But this night, everybody was up front the whole time and boogieing and having a great time. And our show was killer that night, and Mickey and the Motors Cars came out and put on a killer show. And it was just like a great night as both a musician and a fan, because it was like, I'm getting to do my favorite thing in the world, which is play music, and I'm getting to do my second favorite thing in the world, which is watch other people play music. And it's my favorite band, and I had like backstage pass. It was just like all the cool stuff wrapped into one awesome night, and it was super cool. And we've got to open up for a lot of my music heroes, but maybe that was one of the first times that kind of thing happened or something. But I still always remember it as this like really, really cool night. And we played one show one time. I don't think I would recreate it because it was kind of embarrassing, but they had this motorcycle rally called the Lone Star Rally here in Galveston. 500,000 people come down to this thing. It's huge. And we were playing on the main stage, and they had like 6 or 7 bands that day, and we were originally scheduled to be probably, I think, like the third or fourth band, but let's see, Poison or Bret Michaels was playing. He was the headliner, and all the other bands were country. Brandon Ryder, us. I can't remember. Bree Bagwell might have played that day, and so we were kind of the earlier band, but they kept canceling bands because Bret Michaels' demands were like he wanted this spotlight that would follow him around. It wasn't working, and they couldn't get it fixed, so they couldn't play any music till they got it fixed. And he had this huge catwalk that wasn't built right, and they had to fix it. So they was canceling bands, but they didn't cancel us. We just kept scooting back, and so we had a couple beers before our show, which was supposed to start at 2 or 3. So we had a couple beers, probably starting around noon or something, and then they kept pushing us back, so we didn't even start till like 6. So we had the appropriate amount of beers to play a show for 2. We had way too many beers to play a show for 6. And we were walking around just at the festival having fun, and I remember going up get some money out of an ATM machine or something. I see this girl and she's really pretty, and I go talk to her and I was like, "Hey, I like your red boots, you know?" And she's like, "Thanks." And I was like, "I'm in a band and we're playing a little later if you want to come see our show, you know, hang out backstage or whatever." She's like, "Oh, well, that's really nice. I'll see," you know, just not that interested. So finally we get to go play, and we're playing on the stage, and I look around and I see her. She's already backstage, and I was like, "Oh, hey, Red Boots, how you doing?" And it come to find out it was Bree Bagwell, and we were actually opening for her. So I was on her, not realizing who she was because I was drunk, and then it turned out we were actually opening for her. So it was pretty funny, but also super embarrassing.
That's hilarious.
She was super cool about it, and I've told her that story before too since then, and I, you know, it was really funny.
Yeah, I went to Mile Zero and I was trying to meet everybody, and I remember asking this girl, I said, "Hey, what does Bree Bagwell look like?" And she goes, "She'd be the prettiest girl here." And I'm like, "We're in Key West, okay."
Right?
But I didn't get to meet her then, but she actually did the podcast, and
Yeah, I saw that.
yeah, here like you learn crazy things about people. Here, her mom was on the legal defense team that prosecuted Ted Bundy.
Oh, wow.
Like Ted Bundy touched her mom's shoulder and complimented how on her looks, and I
That's
was like,
creepy.
"What?" Yeah, like when he escaped, like that was like a big deal, you know.
Yeah,
She
she's
was
probably very
associated.
worried.
Yeah, and it like came out of nowhere. We were talking about like true crime TV shows. She goes, "Oh, you want to hear something?" It's like,
Wow.
but yeah, she sounds like she's fun to hang out with, and I do like her music as well.
Yeah, I like her music a lot too, and her podcast OnlyFans is pretty funny too.
Yeah, I've been meaning to catch a. It's I used to love listening to podcasts when I worked in the city because I had some time. Now I have a 15-minute ride to work, so it's like,
Right.
and once I stop something, I am on to something else. I'm very scatterbrained.
Sure.
What was funny is that for the longest time I was saying Mickey and the Moto Cars, and I have no idea. Because the one girl that sponsored me to go to Mile Zero, she would have Pablo send me messages of what songs to do.
Oh, wow.
And I'm like, I caught myself one day. I'm like, what did I do? There's an R. Oh no.
Wow.
Because I don't. You've obviously met Pablo, right?
Yeah.
Dude, I love that guy. He was hilarious. Because I was down there by myself and didn't really know anybody. But seeing him, I was just like, hey man, it's funny. He tricked me to hold like a full Yeti cup. He goes, "The girl whose cup this is, I told her to meet you here. Can you just give it to her?" And he hands it to me. I'm like, "Oh no, you got me." And he goes, "I'll see you later." I'm like, "Man." And the person who came up wasn't her cup. I'm like,
Oh, man.
"Those
That's
cups are like
hilarious.
$40." I'm like,
Yeah.
I was like, "You got me." Yeah, he's cool. I didn't get to see those guys play, but hopefully one day that festival, it's just like you need like a tour guide of someone who's been there before,
Yeah.
and you just have to pick and choose. But
I haven't been to that one, but I've been to the early days of the I went 2 or 3 times actually to the one they do in Steamboat Springs. It's kind of the same thing. It's what's that one called? Steamboat.
Steamboat, right?
Yeah, it's
And
in Steamboat. It has a name. I can't remember what it is. It's a super cool festival too. It's kind of the same deal. And that was really fun because it's like, you know, you just could be at a bar hanging out, and you know, I know me and my brother were there, and Randy Rogers and Corey Morrow were just sitting right next to us drinking beers for like 2 hours one day, and we were just talking, and that was right before Randy Rogers was going on the Late Show with David Letterman, and he was even asking us, he's like, what song should I play on that show? You know, just drunk, just like we were friends hanging out, you know, and that's what I think is really cool about that festival. And then you get to go, you know, see all the shows you want to see. I did a couple open mic things at it, but I didn't have a show per se, but it still was just so fun.
Yeah, I do enjoy festivals like that. A lot of people are like, "How do you meet all these people?" I'm like, Mile Zero was one, and
Yeah.
going to Texas, that was a big thing.
Yeah. Right.
Like I went to the Highway 30 at the Texas Speedway, and that was all like one stage, so that was cool. Like you could pick your spot
Right.
and camp at it all day, and just I thought that was a really cool venue. That was because I'm not like a big crowd person. If
Right.
if I can't escape, I'm not having fun. But that place is huge. So
Yeah, that's kind of how I am too. I don't like to just sit. I can't stand being like this, and you can't go get a beer, can't go to the bathroom, or can't get
yeah,
out of the door or anything like that. So it
yeah,
drives me nuts.
yeah. I in the crowd, I hate it, but on stage, love it.
100%,
Yeah,
100%.
like I was standing backstage and just looking at the crowd at night with like people using the cell phones, like the old like
Yeah,
lighters, and I was just like, oh, I want that.
I know. It's so cool. It's just
Oh,
it's great. There's
it's
not a better feeling in the world than playing for a lot of people. I remember I think it was Jack Ingram one time said that he said playing music for a crowd that loves seeing your music is not work. He's like, where it's work is playing at a bar for like 3 people and still putting on the same energy and making them love your band. He said that's what's work, and I was like, that's actually very true. Very different thing.
yeah. I've done a show where it's just like the staff, and
Yeah,
it's they paid you, and it's just
right.
it's rough.
I know. It's
It-
been
it-
a we. I remember one time when I was just a solo guy. I played this bar and it was just my dad and the bartenders there, and it was just like, "Are you sure y'all want me to play this whole time? Really?" They're like, "It doesn't matter. Play till you want." And I was like, "Okay, well, all right, I guess." And then it's back when you're first starting. You'd be like, "Oh, it's a paid practice," but after a while, you're like, "I don't want a paid practice. I want to play for a lot of people." So it's way more fun to do that for sure.
yeah, it's such an adrenaline rush. I love it.
I know. I see all those videos of like Turnpike playing and the crowd singing back to them every single song they sing. I bet that's super cool.
Yeah, the Zach Bryan experience was it was like the biggest choir in the world. Just everybody singing the songs back over louder than him.
Right.
That was, and it just like I'll know the word, but I'm like I kind of like I came here because like I'm a
Right.
terrible singer, and I'm
Yeah, I
like,
want to hear him sing it. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that would be cool. I know sometimes when we play, and I get torn between, do I want to stay backstage and watch the show, or do I want to go up front? Most of the time, I like to go up front and watch the show because I want to hear it how they want it to be heard, and because
yeah,
at the end of the night, I'm a fan too. So, uh, you know, I like feeling cool being backstage, but I like listening to the music out front for sure.
yeah, dude, I'm the same way. I'm backstage peeking at your pedal board,
Right.
and then I go then I
Yeah.
go out front. And I like to stand. A lot of people they like to be up front, but I like to be out back where I just feel like the sound isn't like clipping in your head. Where it's
Yeah.
just like I always wear earplugs, like
Hmm.
the high fidelity ones,
Right.
and it
Yeah, I have
just
those too.
yeah, it just makes so much. The people that stand in front of those huge stacks, I'm just with no protection. I'm just
No.
like, man, like you have no idea. Even stand like on stage, it's quiet, but if you're in front of a monitor that's blasting at you, that I can't see how people can do that, especially if it's a couple day festival. Because I've made the mistake of forgetting them, and it's just like the next day is like,
Yeah.
and
Driving home is just like, it's
yeah, it's
crazy.
I. That's the one thing. Thankfully, because I've had a job where ear protection is a must.
Right.
And I just found out like it. People say, well, it muffles everything. I'm like, you're wearing like foam ear. You want the ones that filter out and just
Right.
drop it down just a little bit where you
Yeah.
can still have a conversation. Even
Absolutely.
the Apple AirPods has a where you can filter everything. That's
Oh,
what I
that's,
was.
I didn't know
Yeah,
that.
yeah. I was actually using them at Highway 30 because a grown man skipped into me, rushing to Zach Bryan. And hard enough that my ear, it was in there. I'm like, wow,
Wow.
this guy's playing hopscotch.
It's a
Was it-
fangirl for sure.
oh yeah, it's that. Yeah, I got away from that. I was just like,
Yeah. Yeah, I like to be kind of in the back where you can move and still hear the show and just be more relaxed. I know when I was in college, I used to like to be up front, and there was a local college station they weren't they were a hard rock band. They were called Push Monkey, and they were super awesome. We used to go see them all the time when they came there. But I remember they were working on the stage one time, and me and my buddy were on the front row, but the stage was they had plywood over it for some reason. I don't know that the floor monitors were sitting on that or something. I don't know why they had that little build out, but the crowd surged forward, and we were on the front, and you couldn't. We were trying to use our arms to stay off the stage, but it was just half-inch plywood digging into our forearms, and the bouncer guy let us climb up on stage and stage dive off because he's like, y'all are about to get squashed real bad right there. So it ended up being super cool, but it was like, oh, these guys are going to break my arms.
Yeah. Yeah, they were probably like, yeah, we want to be on the news because that can be fatal.
For sure.
Like you always hear of like in-crowd rush and just unfortunate accidents happen because, Yeah.
They had that happen in Houston not too long ago. There's a rapper guy, I can't remember what his name is, but Travis something, I think. He had a big show, and several people ended up not surviving that crowd rush and stuff.
That's crazy.
It's terrible, yeah.
You don't want to go to a show just to have that happen.
Not. But like ear protection wise, we switched to in-ears a while back, and just the difference that makes playing your show and going home after a show and your ears not killing you. It's just, I thought it was gonna, it definitely takes some of the rock and roll out of it, but it's just the payoff is better than the trade-off for sure. It's just so nice.
It especially now, like in-ears, like obviously you could spend a lot of money on them, but like you can get the knockoffs for cheap, and it's your livelihood. And and as a singer, I know it helps. Like you probably don't strain as much anymore.
100%. You don't have to sing. You're not just singing over the floor wedges that somebody else line checked for you. So it's a lot nicer. We can bring our whole even at a festival, we can bring our board and hand them a splitter and just have our settings all the time. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's like a splitter stink.
Right.
Then, do you guys have a talkback mic?
No, we don't have that. Most of the time we could just talk to each other, but we've been actually. It's funny. Our drummer's been trying to get us to get one for a while, and we just haven't done it yet. But it seems like a silly thing to not just do. It's just another mic that we already have. All we have to do is run a line to it. So
yeah, dude. I wish it was a thing where like if you're like in a fan club of a band and you could have access to the
that would be awesome.
The frequencies, so you can hear. Yes. Like I would love that because, like, all you would need would be a pack, or even to like release it. And it's funny, I put it like a Facebook status, and a couple of musicians were like, "Hey, check this out," and it was pretty funny. But because people will laugh, like when I play, I'm the only one wearing in-ears with the drummer, and we were. You can talk about the band and they have no idea. It's so fun, and I always, because our board records too, so I record everything. Yeah, and you can split that just to keep that on a separate track, and it's just funny. And awesome. I was just like, man, we should release this as like a club feature.
That would be cool. I've never thought about that before, but that would be hilarious.
Yeah, and even if like it's just like a pre-sale. And you could share the frequency. Like I was, like the one show I saw the Steel Woods, and I wanted to know what he was saying because everyone was like shrugging their shoulders. It was almost like we're not going to go on until this happens because it was like a long like pause, and I was like, oh man, what's up?
Oh wow,
yeah, I always thought that would be cool to have access to that.
Yeah, that would be cool. I know when I fly, some of the airplanes let you listen to the air traffic controllers and listen to the pilot talking to them. It's kind of scary because I don't ever want to know about a problem because I don't even like flying. But I also find it very interesting how much conversation and how many different airspace and stuff you're flying through constantly. So those guys are just up there talking constantly. I was always wondering how do pilots not fall asleep? Well, because they have to talk to the ground all the time. Might be different flying across the ocean. I don't know, but thought. That would be kind of along those lines. It'd be cool.
Yeah, that's too much responsibility for me.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I wanted to ask, if you could collab with any artist, living or dead, do you have like a guy you would like to collab with?
Uh, Honestly, probably Robert O'Keefe. I love his storytelling. I love his songs. I think there's even, his gritty songs, there's a sweetness to them. I just love the way he crafts them, and I've heard he kind of just goes out in the woods and has this little writing cabin where he sits out there by himself and has some books and he writes music. And I don't know, there's just something about seeing him. And I've seen him with his band, but when I've seen him do a solo show with Lyle Lovett also, and the two of them were roommates in college, and they just back and forth telling stories, and then how those songs appeared. And I love the way he crafts a story song. I think it's just super cool. Um, he I've loved him. He's one of the reasons I started playing Texas music, and I've never met him. He's an Aggie. I'm an Aggie. We both play Texas music. I was hoping one day I would get to play a show with him, but he says he's retired, but I still see him playing all over the place sometimes. So I'm not sure what's exactly going on there, but I think that would be really cool to just sit in a room with him and see how he goes about writing, and kind of just absorb what he's doing. I'm sure there's way more famous people that other people would probably say, but sometimes Robert O'Keefe's songs just, they talk to me differently, and I think it'd be cool to hang out with him and just soak up what he does.
Yeah, I guess. Has he ever really had like a master class of like how he writes songs, or?
I don't think so. I've just kind of, I've read some interviews that he's done, and I've seen countless shows of his, and I also think it's cool that he's one of the few people I know that can release album after album after album with the same songs on it, and everyone just keeps buying them. It's like, here, I'm going to play it live at this place, or live at this place, or live at this place. And it's just, it's the same songs, but he tweaks them a little different, or he gets them a little more bluegrassy or a little less bluegrassy, and it just changes the feel of them. And I'm like, yeah, heck yeah, I'll buy it. I don't care.
Yeah, so like, doesn't Sturgill kind of do that? He'll take his songs and...
Yeah, I think he does do that, actually. I've listened to a ton of his stuff, but I'm not as familiar with his process and kind of how he does it as some other guys.
Now, for the Texas country, do you face any like challenges that you feel like is specific to Texas? Just because like I feel like there's like a steel curtain almost. Because a lot of people like people I know that like country up here, when I tell them, they like, what do you mean you just listen to country music on TikTok? And they're like this. I'm like, no. Every name I always say, 9 times out of 10, it's like they have no idea.
Right.
And I'm like, that's kind of like the whole deal of like, people are like, why do you do it and why not? I'm like, because you might like love a genre, you just don't know it exists,
right?
Which is crazy because the whole world fits in the palm of your hand. Every answer,
right.
And
it's amazing like, how many of these Texas bands can fill up a 80,000 foot or 80,000 person stadium, and then you go outside of Texas and still no one's heard of them. And it's like,
yeah,
how could that be possible?
Exactly. And I ask everybody that, and they're like,
yeah, it's nuts.
Yeah, especially with like TikTok and everything. Like once you watch like a full video of mine, the algorithm will just keep every once in a while I'll keep popping up.
Yeah.
And like some of them hit. Like I did one of your songs yesterday, and I think it had like 40,000, close to 50,000. So it's like
oh wow.
Where are all those viewers?
Yeah.
A lot of them are in Houston.
Yeah.
A lot of them are in Texas, and it's like why can't we break this barrier? And it's like, what is it? Like, does FM not travel past, it doesn't go past.
I don't know. We have our own music charts here. We have our own radio stations and our own record promoters and producers and all that kind of stuff. And, when you're coming up, you're in that bubble with them trying to get on our radio stations and our Texas music charts. And now there's 3 Texas music charts. And, Nashville has a stigma here of not being legitimate music, right or wrong. I don't know. I don't personally enjoy a lot of stuff coming out of there now, but in the 90s, I loved everything coming out of Nashville. It was great. So I think in my mind, Nashville's kind of merging with hip hop and R&B, which is not the sound that I gravitate to. So I'm kind of don't like the music they're doing right now. But in Texas, there's that stigma, and then um, I don't know. I think some of the charts and stuff that are out there don't like that Texas has their own charts, and so maybe they even kind of punish some of those artists for being on them and not promoting towards them. But I don't know that for sure. I've done a little
Yeah.
bit of radio promotion with some of our music, but I'm by no means an expert, that's for sure. We've been on the Texas charts, but I wouldn't even know how to talk to an out of Texas chart. So, that could be part of it. Um, I don't know. That's a good question. I think there's so much available in Texas that you don't really have to go outside looking for it if you don't want to. Um, and you have to educate people outside of Texas to like Texas music, whereas the audience is already built in here. You could spend a lot of time going up to, I don't know, name a place and saying, hey, this is how we do our music here. It's more singer-songwriter based. It's more storytelling or real life experiences. There's no auto-tune on it or anything like that. And they might be like, well, I don't know, tell me more. I don't know if I like that. Let me listen to 100 songs, see if I like it. Whereas Texas, you're like, I'm a Texas country guy. And they're like, oh, they already know what to expect. And then they're like, do I like the music or not? You don't have to kind of teach them that it's a whole new kind of music in the first place.
Yeah. I like how like you can be Texas country, but you don't have to look the part of
Right.
country.
Exactly.
You can
Sure.
you can be a real dude in New Balances, and it's
Yep.
just like, hey, if your song's good,
100%. I know that I've had some friends that have done tours in Europe, Texas country guys, and they said when they go over there, they want them to wear like cowboy hats, and handkerchiefs, and big, I'm wearing a pearl snap now, but like ridiculous pearl snaps and stuff like that. That they want to see a cowboy singing the song every night. So I think that's pretty funny.
Yeah, I never knew pearl snaps were like country. I always wore them because they're cheap. I always traveled. You can get like 5 of them for like $25 on Amazon.
Yeah.
They're plaid, so you can go out at a bar, spill everything all over you, and still look presentable.
Yeah. This one I got at, there's a festival you should check out if you come to Texas. It's the Larry Joe Taylor Festival. It's really famous here. And there's a guy there that comes every year, and he just sells old used pearl snaps for like $5. There's thousands of them there. Just everything you think of. It's super cool. And he's super nice, big Texas music fan and everything too. So I always love going by there when I'm up at that place.
So what's your stage attire? Just
We just wear jeans and boots and either a t-shirt or a pearl snap. And I got this ridiculous cap just for fun. Sometimes people like to come on stage and take a picture with us, especially, if girls do. They always want to take your hat off and put it on, so I thought this would be a funny one. But normally I just wear a hat, pearl snap, and boots or a t-shirt. We don't really have an outfit or anything. We're just kind of whatever we want to do, depending on if it's going to be hot or cold. In Texas, a lot of times it's either 100 degrees with 98% humidity where we're playing, or it's 40 degrees with the 40-mile-an-hour cold wind. So you never really... It's tough.
yeah,
We played a Mardi Gras show in February. Actually, this year we played a Mardi Gras show, and it wasn't too bad. It was like 50 degrees. It was nice. But last year, it was so cold that you couldn't even feel your fingers to play guitar, and it just hurt, and I dropped like 10 picks because I couldn't feel it in my hand. And, our guitar player, I don't even know how, I'm by no means a lead guitar player. I'm a songwriter and a strummer at best, but, I don't know how he's doing all this stuff all night long. I can't even imagine.
yeah. My fingers don't work when they're cold.
Yeah,
It's-
it's tough.
Yeah,
And I know at that Steamboat Music Fest, I guess that's just what it's called. I can't remember. They always have 1 or 2 shows outside at that thing, and it was like 10 below, snow everywhere, and it was Jack Ingram playing, and he was wearing a short sleeve T-shirt, just trying to be funny, playing. But I can't imagine how you could actually play a show in that amount of cold.
yeah. Or stay in tune.
Right, exactly. They didn't need a smoke machine because their breath was just filling up. It was pretty cool, though.
That's funny. Yeah, even if they have heaters, if you walk over there and there's no heater, you're especially like if you're playing acoustic, you're out of tune.
Yep.
And it's terrible for the guitar
Yeah.
to fluctuate like that.
Right.
That's
When we
that's
drove the first year we went to that, we drove there and had instruments in the back of our truck, and just a tarp over it. We went from down here where it was probably like 60 to by the time we got there it was -0 or something. I don't know, something ridiculous. And my guitar, I took the strings off because I felt like it was just gonna.
yeah.
So it was I didn't bring a very good guitar because I knew it was gonna be riding outside, but not good for it at all.
Yeah. That's when those carbon fiber guitars come in
Yeah,
handy.
exactly. Fold in half ones.
Yeah.
Yeah, we like to. I don't know. My band probably thinks it's the worst part of our live show, but we like. I like to write jokes too, and I don't tell them at big shows, but we play a lot of stuff where, you know, like the Old Quarter, for instance, a listening room where people were actually. I love playing there. Just a room full of people that want to hear the songs and hear why you wrote them and all this stuff. And I write all these ridiculous like dad jokes, and I tell those too, but. And our drummer makes fun. He does the, all that kind of stuff. So that's kind of funny.
I love this question. If your band's music could be a soundtrack to any movie or TV show, what do you think would be the best fit?
Oh man, I wish our band's music could be on Yellowstone because everyone that gets on Yellowstone gets real famous. But which one would it be on? Man, that's a tough question.
Yeah, it is. Especially there's so many shows now.
Yeah, I'm super into The Curse of Oak Island. I don't know if you've heard of that, but it would be terrible on that show, but I would like to see it because it's like one of the only shows I really like to watch. But man, TV shows. It might could be cool on Always Sunny in Philadelphia or something like that, just in the background. I think half those guys live in Texas anyway, or Austin maybe.
Really?
I'm not sure about that, but I think so. But it's funny because they always have Shiner Bock tap in their bar on the TV show, and I think that's because a lot of them live in Texas. I thought maybe that's what they're doing, but I could be totally wrong on that. I think I heard that somewhere.
It's a great answer though. 'Cause, yeah, it's funny as I could see one of your songs playing there in the bar.
Yeah, that's kind of just maybe not something serious and soundtracky, but just like background music at a fun bar. That you kind of just hear behind the dialogue. That's what I kind of think would be a cool thing for it to be on.
Now, if you could go back in time to play any part of history, would there be an era that you would like to
play music in?
Yeah, would you? Like if you could take the band, would you try to go up to Nashville in the '90s or?
I think that would be pretty fun. I still don't know that we would fit there. I mean, that 90s music's still not really our style.
Yeah.
And honestly, I've loved listening to it. It didn't make me want to start writing music at all. So I would probably more gravitate, if I wanted to play music with people, it would be like Merle and Willie in the 80s and 90s, not so much the Nashville stuff, but kind of just the more of that outlaw fringe. I mean, those guys were obviously geniuses and awesome, but if I could plug in with the group, it'd probably be some of those guys.
Yeah, and is that also in that interview, like you see yourself, if you can, 94 years old, jamming out on stage?
I think so. Hayes Carl has a line in one of his songs that's this kind of job, no one retires, or it's something along those lines, or in this line of work, no one retires, and I just don't see, it may not be me in a full band trying to get booked at festivals, but if I can hold a guitar and pick it, I don't know why I wouldn't try to go to whatever bar is next to my nursing home and play some music at it.
Yeah, I still can't believe he's still doing these big festivals and whatnot.
Yeah, I know, it's crazy. I've seen him 3 or 4 times. One time he came to College Station and he played this little bar called the Texas Hall. Well, it was a dance hall called the Texas Hall of Fame. It's not there anymore. They bulldozed it and turned it to a Walmart, which is sad, but we won't get into that. But he played there, and you bought tables to this show, and me and my buddy Ryan, we brought a tent to the parking lot and camped out because we wanted the very first tickets sold. So we stayed out there all night, drinking, playing music, just doing whatever. And then in the morning, when the bar opened at 10, we were the first ones in line, and we were still the only people in line. And the guy got there and he goes, "What are y'all doing?" And we were like, "Well, we camped out because we wanted the first tickets." He's like, "Y'all could have drove up 5 minutes ago and got the first tickets." So we're like, yeah, well, we had a good time. But we had the very front table, and it was a very small place. So it wasn't like I've seen Willie at a big place, and it's cool, but like sitting right there next to him was just awesome. And I still remember that after the show, he went out back and signed autographs for hours. Every single person that was at that bar that wanted one got to take a picture with him and get an autograph and just kind of talk to him and tell him what he meant to them and stuff. And I still am like, he doesn't have to do that, as famous as he is, and he's old and probably tired, and that he still does that is just such a cool thing, and just a testament to probably what a cool dude he is.
Yeah, you ain't lying, because like, to me that sounds so terrible. I would do it, but like once you pour your heart and soul out, and you're like, you
Right.
just want to, and that part. Hey, granted, it is not like when people want to take a picture of me after I'm done playing. Hey, I'm excited because it hardly ever happens.
Yeah, well, we're kind of the same way. It's like, you really want me to sign something? I don't even understand why you would want that, but I'm going to be super excited about doing it, that's for sure. So, we're always like, we'll be over at the merch booth after the show. And one of our jokes on stage is I always look at my bass player and I'm like, "Sean, how's the line at the merch booth?" And he's like, "Still wide open." And we just do that over and over during the show. And no one's in line there at all, and then we go stand over there for a few minutes afterwards and sell an album or two. But I like playing shows with big guys too that are, sometimes their merch guy will sell your stuff while you're playing, and that's just, I think that's a cool thing about, maybe that's not a Texas thing, I don't know, but it feels Texas-y to me that all these guys, I think, with the exception of a few, still remember how they started out and how they got there, and they're usually pretty willing to help you out. I mean, they're not necessarily going to invite you on the bus to drink beer with them, but they're not going to be rude to you or anything.
Yeah, and that's another place where like when people always like, "Oh man, I wish I could meet the band," I always tell them like, when they're done playing, go to their merch booth.
Yeah,
I've done,
100%.
yeah, I've done it unintentionally. I've totally missed the band. I went down to get a drink, and they're I was there to watch Lance Rourke, and there's and I'm like, "Oh yeah, that's right. You would be here." And I'm like, look, sell your stuff. People want to talk to you,
Right.
And yeah, I always tell people that because they're like, "Man, I would love to meet them," and I'm like, "So meet them." Like,
Yeah, right.
yeah,
I'm really bad about. I know networking is like the biggest thing, but I'm not the guy backstage that's just gonna chase a headliner and be like, "Hey, we open for you. You want to hang out and talk? You want to take pictures? You want to, give me your phone number or something like that?" And I know some guys have no problem doing that, but I'm like, "Look, you're at work. That guy's at work. He's got a new guy opening for him every night. I'm not going to be that guy. If he wants to come talk to us, we'll be very available. But I don't like to bother them. They have their routines and they're doing their thing, and I probably could be a little bit better about going and talking to them. I'm just so like, I don't want to get in their way. That's kind of my personality, and it probably causes us to not, get some networking that we otherwise could. But at the same time, I don't want to, be too forward with those guys, and I don't know. It's a weird line to walk.
Yeah, because you can get a guy that's super nice, and then I'm still like kind of in my head like, man, he's probably saying like, "God, thank God that guy, what a leech."
Right? I know, exactly.
You never know, but it does. And like you say, the same thing, like it probably does help. But like
Right.
a lot of people will be like, "Oh, you went to the Texas and you had backstage passes. Where's all the selfies and stuff?" I'm like, I'm not that guy. I'm not like,
Yeah.
I know I'm on TikTok and I'm in front of the camera all the time, but I'm not the one in the airport like, "At the airport, Texas." Woo!
Right.
Like,
Same.
and
I know. I was always like, you need to do more on social media. I was like, I know, but I can't stand like taking pictures. Like I don't want to go up to somebody that's minding their own business and be like, "Can we have a picture?" Blah blah blah. Or, you want to see us walking into the empty bar to sound check? Maybe people do, but it seems silly to put all that on there.
Yeah, and I guess it's like, I guess people feel like it's access,
Yeah, I guess so.
but like I tell people, like one thing I will not do is I said there's rules of the road. I will never record on a tour bus unless the guy that it's his bus and he says, "Hey man, take some vids, take some content."
Yeah,
That
right.
is the only way.
Yeah,
'Cause-
that's true.
Yeah, I'll never have my camera out. I'll never have it running, just because these people are out, and like they could be taking a picture with somebody, and whoever's at home, their home, could take it the wrong way. I've
Right.
seen that happen, and I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't want any part of that. I
Right.
say it could be,
100%.
you know what I mean? Like
Yep.
it could be somebody who just bought a shirt and say, "Hey, can I get a picture?" And I've seen my buddy's phone blow up, and he's like, "It's nobody." It's
Yeah. Right.
yeah,
Look, I'm on here now and no one's on here.
yeah, because they're like, "Hey, did you meet this guy?" I'm like, "Yeah, man. Well, where's all the pictures?" I'm like, "Well, one, I probably wasn't intoxicated enough because
Right.
I get to one point where I'm just like, hey, man, I never do this, but come on,
Right.
Yeah, it's fun. One of the coolest moments I had was I walked backstage at Highway 30, and there's Tanner Ussery and Cody Canada. And I walked up. I was like, "Hey guys, I've met them before." I was like, "Hey, how's it going?" Blah blah blah. And Cody was like, "Hey man, can we get a picture?" And I
Oh,
was
that's
like,
cool.
I was like, "Yeah." He goes, "Yeah, I want you to take a picture with my family." And he took a picture of me, Waves in April, and I was like, "This is like the coolest thing ever."
Oh, that is cool.
Yeah, dude, his kid, Dirks, his son, like he got off stage, and I ran backstage to say, "Hey man, great set." He goes, "Hey man, we'll hang out. Going to go get a tattoo." That's the first thing he jumped. He jumped on the 4-wheeler and took off and came back with an Avenged Sevenfold tattoo, and I was like, "Dude, that's rock and roll right there."
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah, it's that was definitely a cool experience, but yeah, I do get what you're saying. It's just like, but
Yeah, and I want to be the guy that's just so friendly and I got everybody's phone number and all that kind of stuff, but it's like when I'm actually in the moment, I'm just like, I had a great time playing my show. I'll just hang out and watch their show, and then, I won't bother them. And I don't know. There's probably no right way to do it. That's just, how I do it. We've had some guys where, they've some big guys that have given us their phone number, like, "Hey, we loved your show. Next time we're in town, watch my schedule when we're coming back around. Give me a shout and you can open up for us again." And that's like the coolest thing ever. So I want that to happen every time, but I don't want to ask for it to happen. I guess
yeah,
I want them to enjoy it enough that they, obviously there's a big difference between me going to talking to them instead of the headliner and them talking to us. I'm sure they know that we would crave for them to come hang out with us versus we're probably putting them out by going and trying talking to them. At least that's how I kind of think about it. So I don't know if it's right or wrong, but it's just my personality, I guess.
yeah, and when it happens more organically, it's more genuine.
Sure.
It's definitely like you don't have to second guess. Like
Right.
you're not going to get like the put on red and straight to voicemail.
100%. If you ask for it and you
terrible.
put them on the spot and they don't want to do it, then they're just gonna dislike you forever,
Yeah,
So I don't know. It's a weird thing to be hanging out as a peer with people that are kind of like your heroes, and so you don't really feel like you're the peer. It's a weird situation, but I love it.
yeah. It's a weird environment.
It is. It's cool, but I like it. I think everybody wants to go backstage and see what's going on backstage, and then sometimes it's just like really boring.
Yeah, it is.
Eating enchiladas and hanging out. That's it.
Yeah, I love those memes where it's like people, and like the guys like Motley Crue and all that kind of like made it this whole fantasy thing, and then you get back there and it's just like people throwing a football, the stagehands, and there's just people just chilling. Like
Yeah, exactly. Everyone's on their phones, just hanging out. it's not a rager every night, that's for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, we had I know one of my Ray Wiley Hubbard's guy. I've loved him forever. I saw him when I was a kid too, and he's super cool. And he used to roll around with Willie and Waylon and all those guys. And we got him to sing on our last album, which was just amazing. It's amazing how it happened. It was very kind of organic and just weird. I was a big fan of him, and I kind of talked to them a little bit before, and I sent him this song that I wrote about opening up for him, and I was talking to them, and he's like, I like it, I'll sing on it, and I was like, what? It's still like I have the voicemail saved on my phone still. It's one of the coolest things ever, and his wife Judy, who basically runs his entire operation, she's awesome, and she called me and she was like, yeah, I talked to Ray, he liked the song, he's gonna do it. I was like, this is the greatest day of my life, and then she puts him on the phone. She goes, oh, wait, hold on, somebody wants to talk to you. And she puts him on the phone. He's like, Brandon, this is Ray. I guess I'm going to be singing on your record. And I was like, what? So awesome. And it was just super cool. And they were so nice. And it was all just super cool. So it's stuff like that, that happened organically. So it can happen more organically than just begging people to do stuff. So it, just like you said, it means more when you don't have to just hound somebody for something.
Yeah, force the hand. Didn't you played his Les Paul too, right?
So my guitar player has a gold top Les Paul also. But see, the story in that song is that we opened up for him and he didn't like my guitar and he was like, hey, try this gold top Les Paul. And so when I was talking to him and Judy was like, when did you open up for him? I was like, oh, we never did. I wrote that about what I thought it would be like to open up for him. She's like, oh my God, that's awesome. You're going to have to open up for him for sure now. And we still haven't, but it was just a cool story. They liked it too.
Yeah, that's funny. It would have been funny if he thought you did open up for him.
I think they did. They were just like, what is this? I don't remember. And I could have just been like, it was about 2 years ago. They would have been like, oh, okay.
Yeah, you said you're going to take us on tour, right? What's up?
Right? Yeah, we've been waiting. I don't know what happened. He plays down here some in Galveston. Like I said, that Old Quarter Acoustic Cafe bar is pretty famous in Texas, and it's where I played my very first show that I was telling you about earlier with Open and having get an hour together. And I remember getting there, I was super nervous and walked in the door, and I had all my T-shirts and my guitar, and I walked in there like $5. I was like, oh no, I'm playing. I'm opening. They go, everybody's paying $5, and I was like, oh. Okay, well, I had to pay $5 to play my first show. I guess this is how music is, huh? Really great, really great.
Did you get the hand stamp too?
Exactly. It was funny. And now I'm good friends with the owner and everything. It's funny how that turns out. I love telling that story when we play there.
It's funny. Everybody pays $5.
Everybody pays $5.
Now you get artist lanyards, right?
Right? Exactly.
They're cool.
They're very cool.
Like Wayne's
it's not
World.
much cooler than that,
Oh, yeah.
Playing the show is fun, but wearing your artist thing for all day, real fun.
Oh, yeah, and when you get even cooler, you can wear it like on your belt loop.
Yes. We haven't got there with the carabiner with all of them on there yet. We're still the nerds wearing them around our neck. It's like on Wayne's World when they're walking around like, is this cool? Is this cool? Is this cool?
Yeah. Yeah, I get mine by waiting for the people to leave. Be like, hey, do you need that anymore?
Right.
Nope.
I saw ZZ Top a couple months ago, actually, in Dallas, and it was like a private show. I didn't even know I was going to be there. I was going up to Dallas for something, and my friend was like, what are you doing tonight? And I was like, I don't know, nothing. I'm getting into town. I'm not doing anything. And he goes, you want to go to a concert? I was like, yeah. Didn't even know who it was. And then later I was like, who are we going to see? He's like, ZZ Top. And I was like, oh, cool. I haven't seen them live before, even though I've always wanted to. And I just assumed it was going to be at some big festival thing. But it turned out it was this private party for this oil and gas company. Or not oil and gas, construction company. And they had booked them to play this tiny little room for all their clients, And it was amazing. So I'm sitting in there, front row, no one around me. I could do this, spin around. No one even knew they could come on the front row. And I was just sitting there like this. ZZ Top, I could have touched their shoes right there. And they played their whole set. They were leaving to go on a tour like the next day or whatever, and that was their like final dress rehearsal set to go on it. So they played it exactly like they're going to do it on the road, and it was amazing. It was so cool. And but after the show, they were done, and the stagehands were coming out and breaking everything down. And I was like, "Hey, is there any chance I could have that set list?" And they're like, "Oh, no, absolutely not." Like, why not? No one else. There's zero people in here that even know to ask for a set list. You know, they're all drinking the free booze and free food, and they got to see ZZ Top, but they probably aren't as enamored with it as I was. And I was like, I just want that set list. It would be so cool, but he wasn't gonna budge on it.
Bet you can't catch me, old man. I can't. What was it, like laminated? Was it?
No, I don't know. It's also weird that I thought it was interesting. You know, they have all the pedal board sounds as they're playing through songs. The guitar switching sounds doing everything, but there's nothing there. So someone's doing it backstage for him, and he's not even having to do his own pedals. And that's the first time I've ever seen that. It was crazy.
That has to be. I was just watching a guy do that for Shinedown, and to play and not have that connection of your wall. I don't. That has to be something you have to learn.
To learn it, yeah.
Because it's just. It just blows my mind. I guess that's when you hit the big time of,
I guess so. But yeah, like you said, I would want to be connected to it because that's your sound. You want to make it. It's like when we're in the studio. That's another thing I think is weird is, we'll do the tracking, but then when it's time for vocals, I don't have my guitar, and I never sing my songs without a guitar. So when I do, even though I can hear the music in the headphones, it's awkward because I'm not doing the guitar also. So I can't imagine not having foot pedals if that's what you're used to doing and all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, because I always keep a booster. Because if my stuff changes and I see the sound guy, I'm like, all right, here comes that 10 dB boost. And then if he adjusts anymore, I'm like, oh, I got 2. Like, what if you want to go a couple more bars on your solo and put more gain on it? You want to tap on your overdrive.
Yeah, and I don't think I've experienced it in real life, but I know on was it Crazy Horse movie? Did you see that with oh man, I can't remember what his name is, but basically he was an old aging singer, kind of like a Merle Haggard type or whatever, and his career evolved to the place where he was opening for this young Nashville guy or whatever, and he was yelling at the sound guy at one of their shows. He's like, I know I'm the opener, but don't be screwing up my sound and making me lower. And he told him all the dBs he wanted on everything in his band because he had so much experience. And, I've heard that stuff goes on, but I don't think I've experienced it. You don't really know what's coming out of front of house, but I can't imagine somebody would really do that to make a headliner sound better.
Yeah. Yeah, they tend to be paid and professional because...
Yeah. There's a sound guy that we work with a lot, and I love him. And he said, he goes, I can't really do much to make your band better, but I could do a lot to make it way worse.
Yeah, you do not want to make enemies with the sound guy.
Yeah, it's funny. He's an old, salty guy, and I love him. He's awesome. He built us a custom splitter snake and all kinds of stuff. He's been around. He's done it all. He's super cool, dude.
Yeah, he probably has great stories, too.
Yeah, he does. He's awesome.
That's like when people were like, who's always the coolest to meet in the band? I'm like, the coolest people to always talk to are the bus drivers.
Yeah.
Because not only do they go with them, I said they go with everybody, especially if it's hired out of like a company. They know everybody. They know all the ins and outs of the venues. That was always my thing, is make friends with the bus driver. You'll eventually meet the band.
Right.
That bus driver will tell you, you'd be like, nah, you don't want to go here to get drinks. You want to go over here. You want to talk to this guy. You want to go back. You don't want to go through there. They'll give you a problem. You go back here. Here's how you bypass that. And it was just like, this is the guy.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
And they're happy because nobody normally wants to talk to them. And here, some of 9 times out of 10, they're very cool.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that. They probably have the best stories because, like you said, they're on the road with a lot of people.
Yeah, and they're pretty much living with them, and guards get let down.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so you can really learn some inside info if you're trying to
Yeah.
get in on an artist or anything.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, that was always my go-to. Where's the guy at the keys?
Right. Yeah. It's a strange environment, man. I love it. It's really cool.
Yeah, it's not you're like at times a realtor, selling your estate, your music, and
Hmm.
then you're a coordinator doing your booking, your shows,
Right.
and there's a lot to it.
There's a lot of work that goes into playing for 90 minutes. It's just like people don't understand all the time of the driving there, and then if you're running your own sound, that's 2 hours of setup, and then
Ugh.
setting up your stage, tearing everything down, driving home. It's like I played 90 minutes, but I was gone 12 hours today for that show.
Yeah, and there's never time to eat right before a show. I found
Never.
that.
No, and even if there was, you can't, or at least for me singing, if I eat right before a show, then I'm just gonna be burping the whole time. So and
That's
then
true.
afterwards, you just want to get out of there usually, or you're not hungry anymore because you've played and you've been drinking a little bit, and so you forget to even eat dinner
Yeah, it's so true.
or everything that they put out backstage is gone by the time you get done. So it's like, whatever. I'll have a hot
Yeah,
dog on the way home. I'll stop at Buc-ee's.
yeah, that's funny. That the way of the road.
Yeah.
It's amazing how it's the same here, and 3,000 miles out there, it's the same.
Yeah. I just we set up, we're maybe 50-50 on running our own sound and setting up our own PA at a lot of places and playing places where, it's all set up, and man, it is a night and day difference to not have to set up a PA and everything, and
Oh,
it's so nice when we want to get to the level where we never have to have our PA with us. That would be awesome.
dude, that's yeah. It, it's incredible. Like everybody remembers the first time when you just walk in, you give your guy your lead, and
Hmm.
that's it.
Yep.
It's
I
it's
love
like
it.
yeah, like I play with a Kemper, and it's like I don't even need. I don't have any on stage volume,
Oh,
so
wow.
it's just like yeah. Everybody else in the band, like that's how I'm like. You need to get in ears because I am not now.
Yeah.
Like I don't I
Yeah,
don't
that's cool.
yeah I don't need any sound. It's nice to have a quiet stage.
Yeah, it really is. And I guess no matter the I always feel like the snare drum is really where your volume is. You got to be with that. And, some bars hire bands and they don't actually want live music at them because it's too loud. And then you're like, well, why did you want a band with a drummer? Do
Yeah,
an acoustic or something. But, drums are loud. Even with brushes, they're still going to be pretty loud.
yeah, yeah, and that's what takes your hearing.
Yeah, for
The
sure. Yeah.
cymbals,
Yeah.
especially
During sound check, when you're still doing your wires and everything, and they ask for your drummer to start hitting the snare and you're not ready, it's just like somebody shooting a gun right by your ear. It's like, hold on. I'm like bent down right here. Give me a second.
yeah, yeah, definitely. But it's been an hour 15. Did you have
Yeah, I
to
probably
run
got
or
10 more minutes if you want to do some more, or I can head out. I've got to be home about 6:30 this evening, so yeah.
I'll do whatever you want. I didn't want to hold
Okay.
you up or anything.
Yeah, man. I got about 10 more minutes if you want to.
Okay, coul. Is there anything you want to talk about?
Well, just that we're gonna be back in the studio starting next week. We're gonna record I think a 4-song EP this time. We don't have a name for it or anything yet, but probably be out in a couple months. I think we're gonna try to release a couple singles off of there before we actually release the whole album. You kind of get penalized on Spotify, I think, for releasing an album versus singles because once you release the album, I don't think you can still apply to have your music on any of their playlists. So you got to kind of single, then album, you know?
Really? I
Yeah.
did not know that. That explains why. Because like yeah, like normally you put a couple singles out and the EP will have some songs that weren't released, but now
Right.
it just seems, which is cool.
Yeah. Well, it
But
seems like at least, unless they've changed it, it's been 2 years since we released our last album, but, uh, you know, it's already hard enough to get on some of their editorial playlists. And so you have to apply to be on them, and then there's people who listen to them, decide if you're going to be on there or not. But once you release the album itself to Spotify, those songs are no longer eligible to go into any of those playlists. At least the ones that we were trying to do, and that's what, our promoter told us and all this kind of stuff, and I looked into it, and that's how it was. It may not be that way anymore. We'll find out once we get these songs recorded, but I guess you got to be a little more strategic, which kind of stinks because I like when people put out whole albums and I get to listen to it, absorb it, and listen to the whole thing over and over and over again. But it's just not really the way it is today.
Yeah, and that's God, that's frustrating.
Yeah,
because how do you pick out like a single? You know what I mean? Like
it's tough. We've got our radio promoter last time picked out our single and was like, these would be the best for radio, and it's not necessarily the song. Like, we don't record to be on the radio, so we're not changing our songs to make them radio friendly because they want them to be like 3 minutes and 15 seconds to 2 minutes and 50 seconds or whatever. And then, it's got to sound like this. And so we mostly recorded our album, and then we're like, which songs do you think we could put on the radio versus we're recording this to be on the radio. So that's kind of how we did it. But, I don't know how guys pick it all the time,
Yeah, and it's frustrating because they make you shorten your music, but they don't ever shorten the ads.
Right, 100%. And I also think it's like some albums are meant to be heard together. Like some of the songs play off each other and things like that. Or
yeah,
especially those cool story albums where, Willie Nelson has some. I think Redheaded Strangers like that. Robert O'Keefe has one or a couple where like there's songs that are tied together throughout the album. And if you take that away from people and don't encourage them to write music like that anymore, you're missing out on a whole bunch of cool stuff.
Yeah, I was not a fan of like condensed versions just to play the game.
Right.
Because if you don't, they'll just go, oh, see ya.
Yeah, I know. I think music is it's one of the weirdest arts because it's like a painter. I don't know a lot about painting, but I assume there's no one telling a painter, you need to remove this cloud over here because people won't like that. It's like you paint your painting and show it to people and they like it or they don't. There's not a gatekeeper that tells you if people are going to be able to see this or not, And I think the digital stuff is kind of giving everybody an even playing field, at least somewhat. You can still have your music out there for people to hear. Whether they hear it or see it or you promote it well enough for them to hear it, I guess is kind of on you, but at least you can put it out there.
Yeah, it's as simple as just click and upload.
Mm-hmm.
That is cool. I mean, unfortunately, there you can also have a lot of terrible music, but
right.
But still, I didn't know that about the singles about them being on the playlist because being on those playlists are huge.
That's everything now. It's like we had some songs on the radio in Texas, and we were getting several thousand listens on the radio, but then like we were on the playlist and we were getting hundreds of thousands. And the thing about the radio too is, where I live, and I love Texas radio. I'm not dogging it at all, but where I live, there are no stations playing Texas country, which is where we fall. So if I put a song on the radio, I've got to go on a radio tour and drive 12 hours away and hit 3 radio stations during the day, which is fun. I like it, but sometimes I just don't know. I'm probably not going to be playing a show out there very often. So is it helpful for me to have a song on the radio 12 hours from where I'm actually playing music? I don't know. I mean, I guess it is. You want people to hear your music no matter where they live. But, online, you can actually see where the people are listening to your music. You can get the insights and the data and the metrics, and you can be like, okay, this town really likes my music. We should be trying to go play some more shows out there.
Yeah, and that's a powerful tool. And and not a lot of people use it, which it just blows my mind because it's like with mine, people are like, you can just walk around and nobody knows who you are. I'm like, yeah, nobody out here. I said, but my analytics or whatever, it's all Texas.
Yeah.
Houston and whatnot. And I was
I told people I was going to be on this today. I was like, oh, that's cool. That's awesome, So, I mean, people definitely know what you're doing down here for sure.
Yeah, that's funny because, I don't think anyone in my family even... I used to have my friends on here and then they were like, oh, that was cool, and then it's like now nah, I just
Well, it's such a unique podcast also. It's not like just someone loves Texas music talking about Texas music. It's like you're finding music in a genre that you didn't even know existed and becoming a fan of it and actually playing it for people and talking to the people that write it. And I think that's just genuine and cool, you know?
Dude, it definitely is. Because like you guys have like, I would say like you guys cross over. Like you got like a Turnpike, Shane Smith, mixed in with like a bunch of other country guys, and it sounds
Yeah.
fun. The songs I heard of yours, it's like
Mhm.
fun.
Yeah.
And
We don't really have we're not trying to emulate anyone. I know when you posted our 43rd and R, I just happened to, and I looked at all the comments and they were like, they sound like Turnpike, they sound like Turnpike. And we were actually on a radio show. It's an AM radio guy here, huge audience. He's nationwide in the evenings, and he played one of our songs, and people were calling in and they're like, it sounds like that. I can't remember what song, House Fire or something that Turnpike did, and they were like, I bet he ripped that off. And I was like, I wrote that song 3 years before that album even came out. You know, I wrote it for that song 43rd and R is where I met my wife, and I wrote it. I didn't know what to get her for our wedding, so I wrote that song about where I met her and played it at our rehearsal dinner and everything. So, you know, it's like you try to put out good music, and then even people that like that kind of music are like, well, you're just trying to sound like this guy. And it's like, I'm not trying to sound like them. You think it sounds like that, but I wrote it in a vacuum, you know?
Yeah, yeah. It's not like even like Turnpike. They sound like other people too.
Yeah, right.
It's
So, yeah,
it's not.
it doesn't hurt my feelings. Someone says that we sound like Turnpike, I take as a huge compliment.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
like
yeah.
that song may sound like Turnpike, and then some of our other stuff is not anywhere close to that. And honestly, one of my big influences is, and I don't know that it comes out in my music or not, but I love like teenage angsty punk music, like Blink 182 and everything that's on like American Pie soundtracks and stuff. I love that like sad high school broken heart angsty punk music, man. It's so fun. I love to run to it, work out to it, and I listen to it all the time. It's super fun.
Dude, that's funny. Like sometimes I'll say, "Man, this sounds like it could be on a Van Wilder soundtrack," and people are like,
Right.
"What does that mean?" I'm like, "I can't explain it to you." Then,
I know exactly what that means. Yeah.
yeah, the American Pie, yeah, like all of that, yeah. I love that sound, and it went away, and
It
but like
did.
the Texas guys, like I feel like they're bringing it back. Like the
Hmm.
what did I say about Giovanni and the hired guns? I said they sound like Blink 182 if they were raised by Roughnecks.
That's
It's that
awesome.
it's that sound, but like it's got like the story
Yeah.
and stuff, and they have fun songs, they have
Right.
serious songs, and it just had that like that early 2000s, late 90s alternative sound that
Right.
dominated and went away. And it's funny, like I was sitting in an Applebee's with my buddy, and he goes, "Emo's gonna come back," and I was like,
Yeah.
"Listen, I'm all for it."
I hope
I
so. Yeah.
I loved that era. I loved the fans. The ones
Right.
that took it a little bit too far.
Too seriously. Yeah.
Yeah, but I love the music. It was
I think it went away when, and I'm not going to remember the band's name, but they were more alternative than the emo punk. But it was when bands decided they had to put like a DJ in their rock band also, you know?
uh
And the DJ would scribble and somebody would just like repeat everything scream wise. And I was like, come on, guys. Just
yeah.
some instruments and let's have some fun.
Yeah. I know exactly what you're talking about. It worked for Limp Bizkit having
Yeah,
the DJ, but yeah.
right. It was some band right after Limp Bizkit. Like Limp Bizkit was kind of first out of the gate with it, but they weren't trying to be. They were more rappy metal. I don't know how to describe it, but they were kind of like this their own thing. But then everyone, God, I cannot remember the name of the band. I tell my drummer this all the time. I'm like, this band ruined alternative music.
Yeah, I miss that. Like even there's like so many bands that no one ever really listened. Like I don't know if you ever heard Orange 9mm.
Oh, I haven't.
They have a different sound. They were kind of like a harder Rage Against the Machine,
Oh yeah,
but like the whole like emo thing. Like I used to listen to like all the like even like the weird like electronic when they even put that in. I like the different sounds like Orgy.
yeah.
Oh,
Oh yeah, I like those guys too.
yeah, like it's what is it, like the salads and Jimmy Eat World
Yeah.
and all those guys, Aiden.
It's really fun to watch, like on YouTube videos of these guys that are still playing, and they're still singing sad high school love songs, but they're like 50.
Yeah,
And it's awesome. Like it's still good, but it's like they look different than when I remember them.
yeah. That's I saw my buddy just went and saw Fall Out Boy and Jimmy Eat World and said they were fantastic. And when I was at Dallas Fort Worth at the Stockyards, Thrice was playing right next
Oh
door.
wow.
They said he played 3 songs. Went, my voice hurts. We're done. Yeah. Every
Wow.
week we had like a meet and greet, and they're like, "Dude, Thrice I love that song, Artist in the Ambulance." And they left, and they came back. They're like, "Yeah, they're done. They had 3 songs," and he heard his voice.
Wow.
I was like,
Man. Yeah, we still have to play 3-hour shows sometimes, and man, at the end of those, voice is starting to hurt.
"Yeah, that's got to be terrible."
Yeah. I mean, it's still fun, but it's like nobody wants. If you're a cover band, sure, because you're playing different songs all the time, and we do a few covers, but we're not a cover band by any means. And you know, even people that love you don't want to see the same band for 3 hours, unless it's like a rare thing. But it's, I don't know. I can see bars higher and they want a band the whole time, and it's like we would do better if you booked us for 90 minutes and everyone came for that 90 minutes. But you string it out over 3 hours, and the crowd will turn over a couple times, and it's like our live show, we try to build to like a finale, and if you're doing it for 3 hours or something, it's like some people get the front, some people get the back, some people get the middle. They're not necessarily getting
Yeah,
our vision of how our music, we want it to finish out for you.
yeah. In 90 minutes, you can give it 100%.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah,
So yeah, but it's all still really fun.
yeah. I agree. It's a feeling that cannot be replicated.
Very true. Yeah, so your question about when you're 94, I'd like to hope I'm still at least plucking away on a stool somewhere.
Yeah,
It's not on a big old tour bus.
yeah. Just a guy sits in the chair.
Right.
I used to do this.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe I can go get at the Lukenbach, Texas in the gift shop area for a while. They've got, every time you go in that place, they've got somebody playing guitar somewhere, and it's just super cool. The vibe's awesome.
Yeah, I wish we had stuff around like that around here.
Yeah.
Like, we don't.
Yeah.
It's crazy just seeing everyone's status on Facebook, even from the bands and when people are going. It's just like if we go to an area, you just see that band.
Right.
Texas, you could go down and see. Like when it's talking to Steve, he's like, "Oh yeah, I can do all 3 of these guys," and then you can see 3, 4, 5 bands.
Yeah.
Like, it's crazy.
It's very cool.
It's definitely a cool culture.
Yeah.
I'm glad that there are areas like that that not only like people aren't going there like bachelorette parties and the bands are like background music until they play a song everybody knows the words to. It's actually like people go for the music.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah, that's definitely cool that there are music towns like that now that haven't been saturated with mobile taverns and monster trucks and
Right. And it's weird how Texas, the scene kind of moves from the hot spots of where all the music's coming from. It used to be College Station a lot, and Green and New Braunfels is always a hotbed. But now Stephenville's up in the Northeast is super popular with Texas music, and a lot of bands are coming out of there. And that East Texas corridor down to Nacogdoches and stuff. It's just interesting, where everyone's coming from, and it just changes over the years. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's definitely. I definitely want to visit a lot more.
Yeah,
for the atmosphere.
Absolutely. So, yeah, man, I really appreciate you having me on. I listened to your podcast, and I watch a lot of your TikTok stuff. So it's super cool that now you listen to our stuff. First of all, just seeing us on TikTok on your thing was awesome. I texted my band. I was like, holy crap, we're on the show. We're on the show, you know. And then, you know, y'all asked me to be on there, which I'm really grateful for. And it was great, you know, hanging out with y'all. And so I'm just very appreciative. So thank you very, very much.
Dude, thank you for coming on. I appreciate it. It was great talking to you.
Yeah, absolutely. Anytime you come to Texas, let me know.
Oh, I will. I definitely will.
Show you around.
Yeah. Oh, dude. They have an artist escort? Oh, yeah.
So,
but yeah,
cool.
yeah. Thank you for calling in and doing this.
Awesome. And thank you just in general for doing this show. You know, I know it's cool to give our kind of music a new audience, and even a new way for the audience we already have to hear it and see it and feel like it's something cooler, you know, makes me and my band at least feel cooler than we actually are. So, you know, thanks again.
No problem. But yeah, man, you have a good rest of your night.
Yeah, we'll do.
And
Appreciate you.
yeah, I'll send Steve will send you the links and everything.
Okay.
So
yeah, when do you usually put it out?
Like on like Fridays.
Oh, okay.
And I'll send you the link.
Like, I didn't know how long between recording and putting it out. Did it take a while to edit it and everything, or?
Nah, not really. The videos, yes, but this software is pretty streamlined. I'm getting better at it, so
yeah.
So it should. You'll see yourself.
Okay, cool.
So, yeah, man, I don't want to hold you up. So, yeah, you have a good rest of your night, bud.
All right, you too. Thanks again, man. I really, really, really appreciate it.
Yep. I appreciate you coming on.
Awesome. Thanks.
See you, bud. Yep. See ya. Right.